This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Shine-Irons? This is Steven, your host from Fantology, along with my lifelong friend Josh, talking about the season finale, episode 8 of The Wheel of Time, season 1. And this is a finale that we've already seen a lot of opinions on, and it seems to be fairly divisive, right?
Yeah, that's the first thing I said when I turned off the TV. I was watching with two non-book readers that have really enjoyed the series so far, and we're kind of going around saying what we thought. And the first thing I said was, "This is going to be divisive." Before I had been on Discord, seen anything, I just said, "This is gonna pull fans apart here."
Yeah. And we're gonna get into our opinions and reasons why we think it was good and not. I thought it was pretty up and down, and honestly, after the first watch, I was like, I didn't like that very much. I had a lot of issues. And then I went back and I watched it again, and I liked it more the second time, to the point where I think I did overall like it. I'm not going to say I disliked it. I don't think it was my favorite episode. I can see probably some reasons why they made some decisions that they did, but I could, I'll respect people that say they didn't like it because, like you said, it's pretty divisive.
Yeah, my 30-second take on it was I really liked it as an episode of TV. I thought it was well-paced, and it kept me interested.
Yeah, I thought the
pacing
time. Was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, but as an adaptation, it left me so confused. And we'll get into the reasons why. I guess this is a spoiler warning, too, but we'll get into the reasons why. But it left me just scratching my head about some of the choices that were made, about where they're going to go from here with some of these character arcs, and what the heck is going on here on out. So that's where I'm at with it.
So we probably should qualify some kind of spoiler warning, and this is a little tricky because obviously with the season finale, we're going to be looking ahead to think okay, what is going on here with some choices they made. Let's do this. Let's start with no spoilers past the first book, so we can just kind of talk about what we liked and didn't like in the season and kind of leave some vague hints as to what we might expect, and then we'll switch over to do spoilers, and we can talk about okay, here's what we think this means or doesn't mean.
Okay, that sounds great.
Fair enough. We'll do our best to hold it to that.
I think that's a good idea. I can do that.
Yeah. Okay, and then before we start, also, so we previously did a couple episodes ago. We did this rebuttal of a bunch of arguments that we were not fans of, that some critics and haters of the show have had, and then in our episode 7 review, we got some comments saying we were too negative on that one. After saying that we liked the episode, we mostly talked about things that we didn't like, and I think, to be honest, some of the negativity from the rebuttal episode bled over into that episode, so I'm going to try to just wash my hands of all that stuff and review episode 8 for what it was. It's been a little tricky navigating what we've been trying to do the last couple episodes, just being fully transparent. I probably could have done better with that episode 7 review, because I liked episode 7. Actually, there were a lot of good things, probably more than this one, but we're going to do good and bad and try to fairly represent what we thought of the episode.
Yeah, and we'll also do a full series or full season 1 review. This is just episode 8. We're not really going to get into our overall opinions about the whole series.
Yeah, I think that one's going to need more preparation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll try and do a deep dive. We'll try and do a few different episodes about a deep dive, things you may have missed and things like that. But these are just our thoughts about episode 8. Yeah.
Okay, so let's try to, if we can remember, let's try to just kind of go through maybe point by, or plot point by plot point, or character by character, and then we'll get to the end, and then once we get to the end, that'll kind of lead into a spoiler conversation. So let's start with the Luz Theron cold open, which is everyone's been speculating, will we see Luz Theron or not? And we do, but it's not the prologue scene from the books that the Winter Dragon infamously tried to adapt. This is a different scene, which actually was a real scene from the lore. I had to look it up because I was not sure, but it was, and it seemed to fairly accurately represent actually what happened in the series, and I think I liked this open.
I really like this open. For one, I think that everyone that was so upset about the opening lines of the arrogance, they can take that opinion and just realize, I'll say this tactfully, realize that we should watch the entire season of something before we draw conclusions about what characters think or what knowledge base they have or how they're accurately representing
Right.
or not accurately representing. Like, I can see why people were upset about that, because that did seem like it was moving away from the lore, but it didn't. Like, we get back to seeing that there was this division between men and women Aes Sedai in the Age of Legends, and the men played offense and the women played defense, pretty much, you know. And was it arrogant of men? Kind of. Was it selfish of women? Kind of. Like, they both made a bad decision. So yeah.
And to remind, if you're not remembering from what Josh is referring to, this is like the very opening line of episode 1, right? When Rain is like, because of the arrogance of men or whatever that line was, the power arrogance was tainted, and something like that. Yeah. So to just add on to that, right? So based off the knowledge that Moraine has, which is from the female Aes Sedai, like, that makes a lot of sense that she would have said that, right? But based off of what book readers know after having, you know, read the whole series,
and
like,
this isn't really full series spoilers.
To
this is like kind of lore. We said we wouldn't get spoilers, but we just got to explain to us in this episode, so it's not really a spoiler anymore.
Right.
But
this is just some lore background, and we're not going to go into.
Yeah, it's doled out a little bit more slowly in the book, but now it's been presented in the show, so I think it's fair game.
Yeah, so not to go into spoilers, but there is like additional stuff that happens that has not been discussed yet in the show that book readers were upset because they're like, no, it wasn't the arrogance of men, it was men and women who created this whole thing, which is true, but I guess, you know, Moraine doesn't know that, right? And maybe you could argue, maybe she should, maybe she shouldn't, but they've kind of leaned into this idea that it's thousands of years ago and information has been lost, and what she does know, I guess, is what the Aes Sedai have passed down, which is that men caused this thing because Lews Therin was too arrogant and tried to go and attack the Dark One directly, and as a result, the One Power was tainted, which is all true.
Yeah, and we can see a little bit jumping into the ending of this episode. I still want to move plot point by plot point, but we can see just how much Moraine doesn't know. When they get to the what they thought was going to be the eye of the world, and we can talk about that more when we get there, like, she's just like, well, I have the song, girl, channel into it and hope for the best. You know, like, she doesn't know a lot. She just knew that she had to do something, right? And I think that's a cool story outline, and I think it builds Moraine's character, that she was acting confident the entire time, going on like not very much knowledge, and I really liked that. And I really liked this cold opening. I liked how it framed the rest of the series and gave you some perspective that you didn't have throughout the airing of the show. This also gets me into a point. After this episode, I really think this would have been better as just a full drop at once. I think that it would have helped book readers a lot to be able to sit down and see where all these story arcs go, what happens, and, you know, maybe not be as upset by every little change when they can see more of the...
Oh, you mean a full drop rather than 3
weekly
and then
episodes.
+1+1+1. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know financially how good that would have been for Amazon, but I think the reception among hardcore fans may have been better. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's an aside.
It could be. Yeah, the whole like release timing thing, it feels like that's something that obviously different studios or different streaming companies have different philosophies on. Yeah.
Well, it's just interesting talking to my brother-in-law that I've been watching Wheel of Time with. He's pretty big into fantasy, but has not read Wheel of Time. But he just binge watched The Witcher. He watched it like all in a day. And he just said that was like, he likes both shows a lot, but he just loved that experience of being able to like fully immerse himself in that world. And like, he loved season 2 of The Witcher. And so I just can't help but think that maybe the Wheel of Time suffered a little bit from that amongst its reception from certain fans.
Rafe just did a Q&A yesterday at time of recording. And I think the only question that I thought was super interesting was one that was basically, I don't remember what the question actually was, but his response was, we knew going in that hardcore fans might have some issues here. And honestly, we were not trying to cater to them. We're trying to cater to the majority of the audience that's going to watch the show, which makes sense because this is a TV show. We need people to watch in order for the show to be, the show's existence to be justified. So I guess Rape would say like, well, we don't necessarily care if the hardcore fans are super offended.
Yeah, and that's an opinion for sure.
Which is yeah, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but maybe
we'll try and link the Q&A below. But
yeah, and maybe that's like kind of an unfortunate reality of just like TV. And obviously, look, all we're trying to say is obviously it was not possible to make a 1-to-1 adaptation, right? They had to make changes, and maybe we shouldn't harp on this since we already recorded like 4 videos talking about this.
Yeah.
But I think they understand, the showrunners understand, the writers understand that changes had to be made. And so we just want to talk about, what changes make sense, what could have been better, etc.
And by saying that changes had to be made, that does not mean we're defending every change, because we're going to get into some changes that I have issues with or thoughts about. I'm sure you do too, Stephen. So by saying changes had to be made, that's not us a blanket statement defending every change that they made or every decision they made. But it's just kind of putting it out there that, that there's varying levels of faithfulness to adaptations. And this one was obviously more to the side of making an adaptation instead of a straight up retelling. So,
yeah.
Okay, let's keep moving through the plot of the episode.
Yeah,
that was a long aside.
Yeah. Yeah, and that might have been kind of clumsy, so I apologize if I was trying to, I guess, synthesize too much of an idea into one thing. Anyway, let's go on. So maybe hard to do plot point by plot point since now the pacing was good, and that means that we jumped from group to group. But should we just start with let's save Rand and Moraine till the end, because I think that's going to fit in kind of naturally.
Yeah.
But let's start with what was going on in Faldara with Egwene and Nynaeve, and then from there we'll go to the Padan Fain portion.
As much as you can call it that. So I really liked some of these things with Nynaeve and Egwene, especially at the beginning of the episode. It slowed it down a bit, and we got some conversations between Egwene and Nynaeve, and this, I think, was sorely lacking throughout the season. I liked that it took 30 seconds to have them slow down, have a conversation, realize that they still have this relationship of mentor-mentee kind of, and that Nynaeve, her still singular focus is protecting these kids from the Two Rivers. And her actually voicing that to Egwene was pretty cool. And I think it was interesting that Egwene could listen to the wind still and Nynaeve could not. I'm not quite sure about the implications of that, but that was something I picked up.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I did not understand what exactly that line was trying to do.
Yeah.
But like you said, I did like the solidification of that relationship. And then at the end, when Nynaeve essentially sacrificed herself, although it was a little unclear what was going on with the power being thrown around there, she goes back to the opening line, right? When they're in the women's circle in that induction ceremony, when she says, to be a woman is to be alone but never alone. I think that's what the line was. Might have messed it up a little bit, but that was nice to kind of get that call back and show how important the relationship was.
Yeah. So let's talk about leading up to this sacrifice a little bit. I really, really, really like that they gave Egwene and Nynaeve something to do in this episode, and not just have, I guess, spoilers for the ending of the first book. We'll talk about the differences between the book and the show, I guess, a bit.
Yeah.
But I think it was nice and that they gave them something to do, that they allowed them to fight this army instead of just giving it to Rand to wipe out. I think that would have been clumsily done in the show, and I think it was much better done here. I really, really did not like, my least favorite part of this episode was this fake out sacrifice from Nynaeve. I just thought it was dumb.
Because we've already seen it, right?
We've already
in the first episode, Nynaeve, quote unquote, died once, right?
Yeah. And we already know that Nynaeve is willing to sacrifice herself for these kids. That's why she left the Two Rivers. We already know that she loves them. And it just brings up a whole host of questions on, was she dead? Was she not dead? Is it possible to heal somebody from burning out? It brings up these really valid questions, and I'm not one that really gets hung up on these things because I've only read the series once and I'm not like super into all the lore and stuff. But it just, even for like non-readers, it's going to bring up these questions of like, wait, can you bring people back from the dead in this universe? And can somebody that's like not very skilled in the power do that? And yeah. And so, and I don't want to, like, there's big implications for major character arcs from the books about the subject, right? And so I think that this was just a very strange and baffling decision, and probably my least favorite part of the episode.
And I didn't understand even what was going on until after watching the second time. I'm like pretty confident that Egwene was the one who healed her, but the first watch through, like, Egwene was basically, it seemed like she had come to terms that she was not going to be able to save her, and then all of a sudden the power just kind of like wrapped itself around Nynaeve and she was fine. And so the first time I was like, wait, did someone else do that? Because Egwene's body language was like, I can't do this. But then the second episode, it did seem like, there's the second watch through for me, it seemed like the power was coming from her, so I assumed that she was the one that healed her.
The only other maybe thing that could have been was Rand, like, while he was touching the Sangreal, was able to, like, note, kind of like in the book, going, but like, that's the only way that I could, like, make it work in my head, and how this would make any type of sense.
It's got to be that Egwene healed her. But I agree with you that it was a bit of a baffling decision. I really would have liked to see Egwene be the one who was basically burned out, and Nynaeve.
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked that either, though, because...
No?
Well, for one, I think that this was done to show the sacrifices that Nynaeve was willing to make, and I think that's why it was narratively done, and I can understand that. And that's not really Egwene's relationship to Nynaeve. Like, Egwene isn't really there to protect Nynaeve. Nynaeve is there to protect Egwene, you know?
Yeah, but it would have made sense because Nynaeve's power level is higher than Egwene's, so she would have been the one to just
it would have made sense in that
first.
way, but it wouldn't have made really sense narrative. It shouldn't have been. That just shouldn't have happened, in my opinion. Like, there doesn't need to be this fake out sacrifice of bringing somebody back from the dead, which breaks all this lore, and it was just totally unneeded and a cheap emotional beat that didn't need to be in the episode. That's my opinion on it, and it dragged the episode down a lot, in my opinion. So sorry for being too negative. Like, overall, I like it, but this is
we want to be honest.
Focusing on this specific instance in this episode, it was baffling. I don't understand it, and I don't like it. So,
I would have liked to see. I mean, assuming that this had to happen, I would have said, let's switch places. Egwene, it makes more sense for her to be the one that's burned out / dead here. But we've already seen Nynaeve heal land and like everyone else, so maybe we don't need that again. And they were like, okay, let's do something else. I don't know. I agree with you that I like that they gave him something to do. I think that was the good decision. Yeah, maybe this is like a worst of the best thing for us.
No, well, I guess it was the worst part of a good scene, but it was strange. All right, let's move on.
Okay,
I can't. This is making me upset. I don't want to be upset.
Okay, Loyal and Perrin.
Oh my gosh! I don't want to be upset, and then you bring up this spotlight.
So this was another thing that I liked. I think the theme of this is I liked some decisions. I didn't like other aspects of them. I really like Padan Fain having something kind of cool to do and establishing him as a bigger and like more competent villain than the crazy guy from the books. I think that was good.
Yeah, I think that they're nailing Padan Fain, and this is something that even like Sanderson struggled with when he was writing his books. I'm going to stay away from spoilers, but like he's talked about how Padan Fain was hard to do for him.
Yeah, it seemed like he didn't really know what to do there.
Yeah, and so I think that this is the show learning from the choices that he made and moving it in a better, more thoughtful direction, especially because they have the benefit of seeing the whole series and seeing how he fits into the larger scheme of things. And so I really, really liked it. It was menacing seeing these two fades just falling in lockstep behind him. Like that was pretty powerful.
Right. Yeah. Because especially for non-readers, like you've seen the fades and how terrifying they are. Now here's this guy who has been sus for a while, but now he comes in and he can control not one, but two fades.
Yeah. And fades control, like 1,000 Trollocs. Like it was pretty cool. So I did like that. let's move. Let's talk about maybe a little bit more before the ending of the storyline. I think that it was. I don't know. What did you think of the Horn of Valir just being there?
Well, so in the books, they find the horn at the Eye of the World.
Right.
I don't think it's a big change.
I think that this was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to set up for a second season. Like, this is a good setup for a second season where now Padan Fain is established as a big villain, I would assume, for season 2, and he's got the horn, and they've got to go get the horn. So I think in that way it's cool, and it's gonna be pretty similar to book 2, at least there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this was cool. It gives Tarwin's Gap something else like that they're guarding, and not just, but it just gives them it gives it additional weight than protecting everything from the blight.
However, non-book readers are probably like, "What the heck is this horn?"
Yes. Which I think
because you were watching with some of your family that hasn't read, right?
Yeah, both of them.
And is that what they said?
I don't think they even noticed like the reference to the horn. I think they just knew that something important was in the box that he walked away with.
Okay. It would have. Why didn't we see that? It would have been cool to see the horn. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
take the horn out of the box. Let's see it. Maybe the horn doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't exist, and maybe they want to leave it a little bit like ambiguous for season 2. You know. But yeah, I thought that was fine. Now,
or maybe the horn isn't there. Maybe he took the box thinking it was the horn, and it's not actually the horn. The horn's somewhere else.
I hope.
I don't know. Who knows?
That would be lame.
Too much.
Okay. Too much. Okay, so can we move into my next least favorite thing about this episode?
So you probably didn't like that Loyal is maybe dead?
What the heck, man? He got stabbed by the dagger from Shadow Lord.
Yeah, it seemed like it was the dagger, right? Like Fain was definitely stabbing him, and then you see the dagger, like he's tucking it away. So it would make sense that it was the dagger from Shadow Logoth, which means that like even if Loyal was able to survive his injuries, there would be an additional complication there, which makes me think that Loyal like could be dead.
Yeah, and if that's the case, what the heck? Like, that is just... If Loyal is dead, what are they doing? Like, they know that this is a fan favorite character, and they didn't fan favorite from the books. And the thing is, I don't think that show, like, people that have just watched the show care enough about Loyal to be like, oh, this is a devastating loss. You know, and it wasn't even on screen. It wasn't even like they zoomed in on his face as he got stabbed. It was just kind of like matter.
I know, that was the thing. Like,
it's like,
it would have been a super unsatisfying, like, if he died, like, come on, like, Hodor got a better death, right?
Hodor
like,
got a much better death.
That was emotional. Like,
I think Hodor's death was one of the best things about.
Yeah, I guess I have subconsciously linked Loyal and Hodor together.
A little bit of a strange connection.
Yeah, well, you know, both like large characters that are fan favorites and like have small subplots. I don't know, but
okay.
Yeah, but the death was unsatisfying. If he died, it was unsatisfying.
Very confusing. And Uno, I don't know if we got Uno's death in there.
It seemed like Uno was like still alive. He was maybe kind of struggling.
But why would they? Okay, but then why would they leave him alive if they have 2 fades and Padan Fain?
I don't know.
Then that's also just kind
like
of dumb for just leaving people like potential enemies just alive, like just beat up and tattered but alive. Like, so either way,
you would assume if they were stabbed with the Fade's blade, then they would like that's not just a normal sword. Right. That would be, you know, like we saw Moraine's injury was, and that was just from a Trolloc, I believe, if I remember right from season 1. Anyway, so even if they survived, they would be in bad shape, and everyone that can channel was like just eliminated. Well, Nynaeve and Egwene could come in and maybe do some healing,
or even Rand. Maybe that's again when he was like controlling the one. I don't know. This is just
Rand. Yeah, okay, we'll talk about Rand in a second.
Yeah, but this is just very. The thing is, these weren't large parts of the whole episode. Like there were quick scenes, but it was just very, very weird. Like, why did they do? It's just like, why did they do this? You know, like it's I can't come up with an explanation, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
maybe they just wanted they wanted more things to happen in the finale. That's like the only explanation I can have. And
There's a lot of stuff that happened in the finale. A lot of unanswered questions, and like obviously things we're speculating on that we're not going to get answers to until next year, late next year for season 2.
Okay. Anything else about that?
I was
storyline?
also sad that Padan like still doesn't do anything.
Yeah, to me, this didn't bother me as much because I think that this is part of his character is not knowing what to do, and I think it's fine that they haven't resolved that here. And I think that it hits home that not doing something and not knowing what to do can still cost lives and still, like, is not the ideal route to go. Like, doing nothing is not ideal.
It seems strange to me that he was like trying to find them and like he just got like duped or something. He ran off down the corridor and he came back too late.
Yeah, that was kind of strange.
Yeah. Perrin, so spoiler for my review of the entire season, but I think Perrin was maybe my least favorite part of the entire season because it just seemed like they didn't know what to do with him. He doesn't really, like, he has very few scenes where he's actually accomplishing anything.
Yeah, that's true. I think that they relied a lot on this trauma that he went through with killing his wife, and that was his character arc, was dealing with that. But again, like, you don't really get much of an arc with that. It's just like he's dealing with it, still dealing with it, and still dealing with it. So,
hoping for better things in future seasons with Perrin.
Yeah, and I think overall the whole freak out amongst a lot of people about the love triangle in episode 7 was kind of overblown. Like, they're not leaning into it that hard. They're just recognizing that, like, hey, maybe if you have two people that just got split off from the rest of the group and maybe thought that all of their friends were dead and are very, very close friends, that maybe it would make sense that you would be jealous of them. Like, I thought that was fine. I'm glad that they're not leaning into it more, and that, like, they both love Rand, and so they're gonna, like, they're, even if they may have started to develop feelings for each other, it's just like a hard no on pursuing that. I think that's like a realistic thing that would happen, in that scenario. But so I thought that freak out was overblown for episode 7.
Yeah, they were just throwing some good old fashioned teen angst into episode 7.
Yeah, and they didn't even spend that much time on it. It's not something moving forward in the series.
Yeah, we're over that.
Sorry, I'm giving my opinion on that because I wasn't on that episode, but I did think that showed that did set up some interesting dynamics between Rand and Perrin for later on in the series, which is important for them to do because they don't always see eye to eye. So I thought that
for sure
foreshadowed that well. Anyway, sorry for all these tangents.
One other quick thing on this part. So there was a quick scene with Matt, and I don't know when they recorded this or what, but the scene it looked like Matt going into Shadar Logoth looking very haggard, as we've come to see him looking lately. And so he didn't get the dagger back. I was thinking that perhaps he would get the dagger back in his time in Tarvalon, but apparently he just went back to Shadar Logoth, and it seems like they're really leaning to this idea that Matt could be evil.
I think that they might be leaning into it. I think that they're just kind of changing the corruption from the knife in the first 2 books to being more of a evil streak in Matt. And then I think that this is a similar thing where mild spoilers, I guess, for the first two into the 3rd book, but they've already completed a lot of the storyline in the show. So
yeah, right.
But
you're just going to talk about the dagger.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of them showing that, like, he wasn't fully healed from the dagger, that there's still a corrupting influence that left on him because Maureen couldn't heal him completely, and so this might just be a way that they're combining that part of the story with having to deal with that he couldn't be in the last 2 episodes of the season. So that's kind of my read on this, is that this still can work, and as long as they don't just go overboard and make Matt like purely evil and just have it be mostly the corruption from Shadar Logoth. Because up until Shadar Logoth, Matt was, I think, an improvement, like a big improvement on his book character. You know, like they gave him some actual emotional stakes. He was funny. He was charming. He like, it was like Matt after book 3 in season 1. And I liked that. And then he just, after he got corrupted by the dagger, he became, you know, it seems
Right.
a little bit weird, but
as the book, same thing with the book, he becomes a shell of himself and the evil side. Okay. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, season 2 and the whole recasting is gonna, but a million people have probably already arrived at this conclusion. So let's go on and talk about maybe like Tarwin's Gap action.
okay. Bad CGI or not great CGI. I was watching it on a not very good TV. So that probably didn't help my experience where
I thought it was the same level of CGI that we had seen
okay.
at the beginning of season 1.
I think it was the TV I was watching on. I'll try and go watch it on my phone, which has a better screen. This like the TV settings were not at all calibrated, so that probably had an impact on my viewing. But yeah. Anyway, I thought it was fine, not great, not terrible. It was just fine.
Yeah. And I think some people on Discord were saying that because of COVID, they struggled with like actually getting this action, and maybe that's why it was shorter. Like there wasn't a whole lot of action. There was just some crossbow firing and Trollocs climbing up. I thought like the Tarwin's Gap wall looked pretty cool. That was a little reminiscent of like the wall in Game of Thrones, or like some stuff from Helm's Deep a little bit, but it was really quick. It was kind of a quick scene. And then Agilmar died along with like all of the Faldara leadership, which was interesting.
Agilmar,
but maybe he didn't.
Maybe
he
dead,
didn't really
may not
die.
be dead. Yeah.
I mean, he got like a javelin right through the chest. Maybe the armor. Maybe he had mithril underneath.
Well,
right?
it did talk a lot about the armor that had
Shout out Frodo Baggins.
Yeah, but it did talk about, and I didn't know if this was something I was not remembering from the books, but it did talk about like that there's this armor that, you know, generations before had worn, and he was like debating about putting it on or not when his sister was helping him get ready. So maybe he does have some special armor that protected him, or maybe there's just going to be another mass healing event at the beginning of season 2. Like that seems like the only way they can kind of fix the corner that they've written themselves into with this. A lot of these plot lines.
I can't remember what's going on with Ingtar. Like, was he the taller bearded guy along with Uno, or have they not introduced?
Yeah, I
yet?
think he was recast though, and I don't think he was ever named, but I think that's who he was meant to be.
Okay, so then he's not dead, even though we saw the Fade basically kill him.
Yeah, so maybe they're just, I don't know,
or maybe Ingtar hasn't been introduced yet, and that taller bearded guy was another character. Hard to say. I guess the theme of our episode 8 review is we have a lot of questions. And,
yes, and
not a lot of
that's why I
answers.
came out very confused from the episode. Again, repeating that I enjoyed the viewing experience minus the scenes I've talked about so far. I overall thought the episode was well done, but just very confused about some of the decisions that were made.
Okay, so now Rand and Moraine, and I guess Lan, although Lan doesn't do anything after. I was thinking, okay, Lan's going to come in with some kind of save here. It's a pretty, we've seen this before, right? Like a character is told to go follow them and comes in right at the last minute. Like it seemed like a pretty obvious thing they were doing. They did not do that, which I thought was fine, but you know, maybe it would have been nice to see Lan actually do something cool, because we like Lan doing cool things. But instead it was pretty meta, this whole thing with Rand and Moraine.
Well, one more thought about Lan before we get into Rand is I don't know why it would have been so much cooler of a reveal to have a Trolloc come in or a Fade come in, Moraine try and channel and not be able to, or like even though she knows she can channel, like instinctively try and channel, not be able to, and then Lan comes in and saves her at the last second. Like how cool would that have been? You know,
that would have been cool.
And
sure.
And that's, I don't know. It just seemed weird. Like it seemed like they wanted to do more with that storyline, but maybe they couldn't because of, you know, COVID. But that's again, like, I'm kind of just making excuses for them at this point. Like, it seems like Lan.
But you know, it is tough reviewing this because we don't want to be making unnecessary excuses. We want to have this be an honest review. But COVID was a huge deal for
like
the show.
a worldwide deal. Yeah, it affected everything.
And obviously worldwide. Yeah, it affected everything. And specifically, as we talk in the context of Wheel of Time episode 8, like, this was something that was a big deal in the behind the scenes. They talked about how they wanted to film the Blight somewhere, like, I think off the coast of Spain and an island somewhere that had a really cool scenery. Instead, they had to build it all. I thought the Blight looked okay, but maybe looked a little, it looked like a set rather than actual nature, which is to be expected when it's not actual nature. So things like that are like, okay, it could have maybe been a little bit cooler, but COVID was a thing, and we have to acknowledge that.
And we are getting season 2, and it seems rumored that season 3 is confirmed. So, like, there's a lot of room for improvement. And the final, like, quote unquote excuse is, I think we forget that, like, these are pretty new studios. Like, Amazon has not been producing content for very many years. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I know that they're partnered with Sony on it, who's more established and who just made one of the best movies of the year in Spider-Man. But, like, these are still young production companies that, like, are, trying to get their feet under them. So, there's our Amazon shilling coming out, I guess, that people are
yes, thank you for our big money from Amazon.
Yeah,
that people like to accuse us of. Yeah, we definitely do not get that money.
Okay, so I guess Rand and Maureen now. Here we go. This was
okay.
This was my favorite part of the episode. I really like this.
Okay.
But
and you like, okay, so let's be careful how we talk about this, because some people don't understand the whole thing with the Bazelmon Dark One, right?
Yeah.
And so this is confusing in the books, and it's not meant to be resolved at the end of book 1. It's confusing in the show, and it's, again, I guess, not meant to be resolved. Mm-hmm. So let's use the term Bazelmon for now.
So I was very happy that they left this ambiguous in the show, because I realized even I came away not really knowing if they're going to stick to the books or stick to the show. Now, Amazon X-Ray, if you want to go spoil it for yourself, X-Ray
will tell you more.
Does give you a resolution to this. But I thought narratively, which is, again, a very interesting decision for how they're going about the show. But
right.
But I thought that it was cool that they left this a little bit ambiguous. And I thought it was fun. I also liked that it didn't just turn into a sword battle, because...
And you wouldn't expect it to.
Well, if you're... Kind of, I mean...
Well, I feel like this first book, you wouldn't expect it to.
Yeah.
I was not expecting a sword fight.
Okay. I was hoping that we would not get a sword fight. I thought it was a smart decision to leave out the other two, or the other Forsaken.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
And I thought that it was... So I think that there were a lot of good decisions here that maybe even improved the ending from Eye of the World in terms of Rand's main storyline. And
the reason why I say I agree, and Josh said it was a smart decision, I'm assuming, is because it would have been too much. To bring in 2 random Forsaken when Forsaken have not really been talked about at all through the season, it would have been too much. They set up Lews Therin, which was important in this episode because then it was an important thing for Rand's conflict here with Bazelmon. But 2 Forsaken coming in would have been, the episode was already confusing. Non-book readers would have been like, who are these guys?
Exactly. And I do like that it leaned into a little bit more of the meta aspect of Rand actually having to choose to be selfless, and
choose to be selfless. And I thought it was nice. People have kind of criticized Rand and Egwene's relationship as it's been shown, but I thought it was cool here. Rand realized that this was wrong because he's like, Egwene wouldn't want this. Like, the woman that I love, this would not be what she wanted. So therefore, like, I can't accept this. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was Rand finally recognizing Egwene's agency and her desire, and that maybe the reasons that she loves her are maybe the same reasons why their relationship might not work out. So this is always, I think, a compelling relationship that's being written. much, maybe even more compelling than what that relationship is portrayed in the books. So bravo. That was well done.
Yeah. I thought, so I guess we're saying the Rand Bazelmon conflict here was cool. The meta fits into kind of a, I'll just say the way that this goes kind of throughout the series.
Yeah.
Really, like, thematically, this worked. I liked that they pulled in some things from the books, like their daughter's name was Joya, which was the name of the daughter that they never had, and a similar dream type experience later on in the series. Again, just trying not to do spoilers, but there are enough details here where, look, the people creating this show really love the books. They're making an adaptation. They're pulling in details as they can based off of what they've set up. We didn't like some things, but I don't think it's fair to say, this is hijacking the show, and this is not what Robert Jordan would have wanted. Like, you can tell there's enough care taken here, down to the details. Anyway, and also, I liked the actor for Bazelmon. I thought he did a good job.
Holy cow.
He reminded me a lot of, he looked a lot like Lucifer from the Netflix show. Maybe just like, I don't know, kind of the suave look.
Yeah, like handsome but creepy and unsettling. But like you would trust
cool.
it, like a prototypical like sleazy salesman that's also like really charming. Yeah. Like that, you'd probably buy something from if you showed up on your doorstep and then immediately regret it. Like this is
Yeah.
He
had a very powerful kind of just feel to him.
Great performance. Yeah. The other thing I really liked about the scene was that the added tension on if Moiraine was going to kill Rand or not. Like that was really well done. I know the people I was watching it with, like especially Mackenzie, was like on the edge of her seat, like fully convinced that Moiraine was going to take Rand out. Like it was
interesting. Okay.
I thought it added so like these are the type of things that I think do add some emotional and like some emotional presence and suspense to the scene. So I thought
and
that
it was
fun.
pointed out that people liked the way that they showed the vision dream type of thing that was going on with Rand and Bazelmon, and then also showed the reality of like him standing up at the same time and using the sangreal. Like that was some cool cinematic stuff.
Yeah, I thought that whole scene was very well done, very well planned out, well paced, great suspense and drama, and just like that part of the episode was like a 9 out of 10 for me, and which is weird because that was like the bulk of the episode. And then there are these other things that were just so baffling. So this episode was very confusing to me in terms of how
it's very up and down. Very up and down. Okay, so now Moiraine. I think the biggest thing people are talking about was she really stilled? What is the take here? I don't know. I could see it either way. I think there's arguments both ways. I don't know.
So I came away thinking she was stilled and being shocked that she was stilled. But thinking that's what they were saying in the show. Then I saw some arguments that it was just a tied off shield. But then did you watch Matt and Brandon's like watch through? The Dusty Brandon Sanderson's Dusty.
I did not. Brandon was on for that.
Yeah. So he and Matt,
so that's why people said because I saw on Twitter people were saying that Brandon said that she was stilled. So
while they were watching the episode, go watch it because I've just watched this once and I didn't really take like super good notes. But Matt Hatch was like, "They just stilled Moiraine," and Brandon was like, kind of nodding his head, like. And keep in mind, Brandon has read like all of season or most of season 2 scripts at this point,
right?
So he knows where they're going with this. And so during the episode, Sanderson like seemingly confirmed that she was stilled, and then like chat started to say that they thought she was just shielded. And then Brandon like backed off and being like, "Oh, maybe she was shielded," but like it seemed like his first reaction was to confirm that she was still
okay.
So
we know from Brandon's writing
right now.
We know from Brandon's writing that he likes to throw us off with things, but does he have that poker face in real life?
No, he doesn't. He's no. Yeah. I think that I've watched enough of Sanderson's content and attended his lectures and heard him speak enough and stuff that I can pretty conclusively say that that these type of reactions are pretty natural, and he's not like out there trying to throw people off the scent. Like,
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that.
And even when he was like, "Oh yeah, maybe she was shielded," like it just seemed like so, like that she was stilled.
Yeah. Okay.
So, very interesting. But I guess this is when we should start talking about series spoilers, because we've gotten through the plot beats, and some of this might help to have more context.
Let's talk about let's just mention the Seanchan first.
Okay.
And obviously that I think that will be a nice lead in, because that they're going to be important for the rest of the book 2 in season 2 and series. Okay, so if you don't know, the Seanchan are the creepy pirates that showed up with the tidal wave at the very
took out
end.
a poor little girl just out there collecting
Yeah.
some seashells.
Yeah, dang, that's rough right there. Yeah. They looked cool. I really liked the look of the Seanchan.
I thought that was awesome. I think that, well, the little girl decision was kind of perplexing. I think that the imagery of like a tidal wave coming in to like crash against the shores of this continent, which I'm not going to say the name of because, well, I guess anyway.
Well, that area, the continent is not named. Fans call it Randland, but
which I
yeah,
guess now
in the
isn't a spoiler. I tried to stay away from Randland because that kind of gives away who the dragon is.
Yeah, sure, yeah,
right. But
yeah.
now
the far western shore was what the text said.
So cool. Like I think that was some cool imagery showing that they have maybe some channeling that we haven't seen before, new like different ways of channeling. That they have this that channelers are maybe held in a different regard. I'm trying not to give too much away because I think that this would be easy to give some spoilers, but like, they definitely are not treated like Aes Sedai are treated in Randland, right? Like, I think that can be pretty easily concluded from what we saw.
This is an entirely different culture that's coming in here, and I loved the look. They didn't look like your traditional pirates, but they had that feel to them, and just like the facial coloring of the orange and blue. Like tattoos or dust or whatever that was on their face, that looked cool. I'm looking forward to seeing Seanchan as a big villain in season 2. Or,
Potential
I hope they don't make them.
I don't want to spoil.
Potential villain. I hope they kind of make it ambiguous gray as to like what's going on here with these guys.
I think they will. Yeah, that was a fun scene. I think it was a cool way to close the season.
So so let's do some spoilers now. If you haven't read the any books past here or don't want to hear our speculation on season 2, you can back off now. But let's now talk about the whole stealing thing with Moraine. So one thing I was thinking was like maybe we could gauge if she was stilled or not based off of if she was lying, but based off of what she said, like she told Rand that she couldn't lie, and then she did an Aes Sedai lie to Lan, and then she, I guess, truthfully told Lan that she couldn't channel. So I was trying to kind of like play those logic games where like one thing is a lie, what is it? But the only conclusion that I could come to was that she is actually stilled, but she still can't lie, and they're just removing the whole like you can't lie once you're stilled thing. Like that's a detail they're not going to worry about, which is, well, I guess that's fine.
So maybe when she told Rand that she couldn't lie anymore, she didn't want Rand to know that she was stilled, right? Because
possibly that was just a gut reaction, like, and maybe she didn't know.
Well, I think that was an Aes Sedai. I think that was her Aes Sedai training kicking in, is that she didn't want Rand to have this information, because maybe if he finds out this person that they've kind of had a contentious relationship with so far suddenly can't channel, is pretty defenseless. Like maybe she was afraid of what Rand might do, especially after he just touched the power for the first time. So, especially
after she almost just killed him.
Yeah. As he has a gash on his neck from her holding a knife up to his throat. Like, pretty natural reaction there. I do hope, like, it is important that they keep that plot point of the 3 oaths not binding you after you're stilled, or I don't know how important that is. It's obviously important that Black Aja can lie. Like that is an important part of the series.
Sure.
So That needs
Yeah.
to happen. And then other than that, I guess it's not that important other than just like interesting lore reasons about like the effect that the Oath Rod has and stuff like that. Like that stuff is interesting, but I don't know how super relevant to the plot it is. So I would be fine with making a change there. Yeah.
It's confusing. This is another perplexing thing that, but you know, at the end of a season, I think it's fine to have like at least one big thing that you don't understand that's leading in.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. It's fun to speculate. But yeah, with the number of things that they did in this finale, I think that's where we're most taking issue. I think that I like that they're giving Moraine a big thing to have to now grapple with in season 2, because in the second book, she doesn't have a really compelling storyline. Not nearly as compelling as the first book storyline, where she's trying to find the dragon after 20 years. Like, that's all really interesting, and you got to give Rosamund Pike something cool to do if you want her to be on your show. So,
Yeah.
I think that's all fine.
Her graveling after Rand for a few books or a few seasons, like,
Yeah.
it's not really going to work out too well. Not that
No.
that's very simplifying what she did in the book. I'm not trying to like offend book readers by that, but yeah, like that's her continuing to try and convince Rand to follow her instructions for a few books is not going to be very compelling.
Yeah. So have you seen Witcher season 2?
I watched the first episode last night.
Okay, so minor spoilers for Witcher season 2, the beginning of Witcher season 2. I think it's unfortunate that Moraine's storyline here of like being stilled and maybe like trying to get her magic back is going to be very similar to a storyline in Witcher season 2. Maybe that's just kind of unfortunate because both of those things are changed in both adaptations, and we've already like seen it in The Witcher. But maybe a year has passed by the time season 2 of Wheel of Time comes out, and it's fine again. But if it plays out the same way, I don't know. I might be a little disappointed.
That's kind of outside their control, but it's an
Yeah,
interesting
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's an unfortunate coincidence there.
Fair.
Can we do final thing? Yeah, or go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask if we could do some ending of the whole series spoilers, like all book spoilers.
Okay, wait. Let me.
You say your thing, but we might say that later.
Yeah.
So if you don't want all the book spoilers, click off before I start talking again.
Okay. So Rand walking off. This was the thing. So you hated the fact that you felt like Nynaeve's like quote unquote death was kind of cheap. I hated this. I did not like Rand walking off into the Blight because it doesn't. I cannot come up with a way that this makes sense. Why would he? Okay, like I get Rand's character is he's going to sacrifice himself at all costs and just like protect everyone else, and his mental health is terrible because he cannot like ever take care of himself. That all makes sense. I thought the decision to go with Moraine initially in episode 7 was fine. However, what in the world does he think is going to happen if he walks off into the Blight? Like, what is he trying to do? Is this just a kamikaze suicide mission, which actually is similar to an end of season or end of series thing that happens? But why is he doing this? I don't understand this. This is what I hated.
Interesting. I didn't have nearly that reaction. I thought it was. Is it the ending of book 2 that he separates himself from the group?
It's mostly in book 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just kind of took that they were combining that kind of start to jump towards book 3 storyline.
Okay.
I didn't mind it that much.
But he does that because he's like trying to fulfill the prophecies. Or
yeah.
He's trying to like see if the prophecies actually apply to him.
So
thing.
maybe they start focusing on that, and the impetus for him leaving is to not.
But he
his
doesn't
friends.
have any of that knowledge. Why is he? Is Luce Theron like whispering to him already? This is just I don't understand why the character would do this.
Well, other than the stated reason, which I was fine with, but apparently you weren't, of him, realizing that he's the dragon and is going to potentially kill everyone he loved, and saw the life that Egwene could have, and like all these things. I think that I didn't have a problem with it.
But he's got to have some. Rand would always have some goal in mind, at least. He would certainly sacrifice himself and do something stupid, but he's got to have a goal in mind to try to achieve. And I don't see him having that at all at this moment.
Yeah, right. This is fair. I think I get that criticism. Maybe I just wasn't at that point, was too shell shocked by everything else that happened to really criticize that decision much. And it followed the same basic arc of the books. So I just assumed that that's what they were going for. But I think that that's a fine reaction to have.
That's my thing. Like you said, I think especially after watching it a second time, I enjoyed the episode, but a lot of confusing things. Anyway, say what you were going to say about the end of series.
Maybe
spoilers.
I'll just talk to you guys about this in Discord and not do it on this YouTube video because I don't want to spoil things for people that don't want to be spoiled.
Okay.
So if you want
Okay.
that type of conversation, jump in our Discord, or maybe I'll chat about it in YouTube comments. So that's my.
I like the tease.
Yeah.
I like the tease. Yeah. Drop in the comments on YouTube. It's a good place to talk with us, or hop on our Discord, which links will be provided in the episode description. Okay. Any final thoughts here on the episode, and then we'll roll in our major thoughts into our season 1 recap, which will be a little bit later.
Overall, this was a very confusing episode for me. Some parts of it were the best in the whole series for me. Some parts of it were the worst in the whole series for me. So I'm just very confused. I haven't really watched very many reviews of it, so maybe that will help me figure out where I land. But I'm saying a 6.5, very confused 6.5. That's where I'm. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think they decided they were going to really lean into a season 2 setup.
Okay, fair.
In the season finale. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, we have one season of the Wheel of Time TV show. I've liked the majority of it. We'll talk more about this in our entire season review. But the episode finale was interesting.
Decisions were made.
So let the theorizing commence for the next 11 months to a year when season 2 comes out.
All right. Thanks, Steven.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.